It's long been a goal of Boston's development agencies to encourage business startups and expansion. But with the pandemic, there's a new and urgent goal of helping businesses adapt, mainly by covering some of the upfront expenses for operations and facilities. That's being done by the Boston Local Development Corporation with new funding from Washington under the CARES Act. To tell us about the COVID-19 Recovery Fund is the corporation's general manager, Bill Nickerson. Thank you very much for being with us, Bill.
Thank you for having me on, Chris.
Bill, I think a lot of our viewers think this has something to do with restaurants and takeout business, but beyond that, what kind of business activities could this fund help?
Well, I mean, we can assist pretty much any business that's located in the city of Boston, and with a laundry list of various needs that could come up, some specific to the COVID response, and some just broadly the type of financing small businesses need. I mean, historically, the type of business, one time I realized, I looked at our portfolio and saw that we actually had a butcher, a bakery, and a candlestick maker in our portfolio. So the nature of the businesses could range from, say, somebody who's doing some kind of light industrial, to, you mentioned restaurants, to any kind of a retail storefront, to, broadly, the mission statement of the program, of the 501c3 that holds the money, is actually job creation for Boston residents through lending to Boston businesses. So broadly, we can assist businesses. Obviously, we're going to be looking at those that are in the greatest need of assistance in this environment. Be that the restaurant industry, be that other types of small retailers, or be it, say, a wholesaler who's selling into industries where their sales have been damaged, or some light industrial use who either are affected in a negative way, or in some cases you might find a couple of businesses that have a greater need for their product and that they need the working capital to support that growth. So it could broadly be assistance for businesses.
Well, one thing I imagine this fund could help with, and which could be fairly expensive, is a ventilation system for businesses that have to have some of their operations going on inside. How could the fund help with that exactly?
Yeah, that when we put a list together of when we actually applied to the federal government for the grant, one of the things I highlighted is the idea of adjusted HVAC and ventilation systems for small businesses. This could, more so than some of the smaller needs like plexiglass or rearranging the aisles in a store, that could be the bigger ticket item that we could be looking at. There's a lot of technologies out there that I don't claim to completely understand, but did a little reading up on, that includes things like MERV 13 filters and ultraviolet light systems, maybe even just an adaptation so that there's more outside air coming into the system. So we could, could have a larger project where we could be looking at the installation of an entirely new HVAC system to a business. Certainly that's one of the uses.
What about personal care businesses? They might need some things, maybe some new kinds of barriers, in addition to maybe better ventilation too. Can this fund also help them?
Absolutely. Things like plexiglass, other solutions that are out there. And for restaurants, I was on an SBA webinar with a restaurant consultant who was showing some of the new barriers in the restaurant industry that are available that are amazing. It looked like the cone of silence from Get Smart. So there's some extraordinary solutions people are coming up with out there. And that certainly is on the list of the things that we could support people in, even down to the level of just the PPE they may need for their staff, or additional cleaning supplies. I mean, obviously it's a time of tight working capital and tight sales for businesses, so that we could be helping to bridge that gap to get them back to a normal.
Because the other thing that's going on is people are doing more of their transactions online, and for businesses to keep up with that, they have to increase their capacity as well. The fund covers that too?
Absolutely. That's, again, one of the things that we put into our application for the grant, is to help people adjust to a new normal of social media. I mean, people are moving, broadly, businesses were moving in the direction of social media. And so we could definitely support growth there, be it development of a website or expansion of their technical capabilities within the business to be able to respond to a greater online need. And also, this is one of the places, and we're very mindful of the need to expand racial equity in the small business world. And there's been a lot of studies done over the years showing that there is a digital divide that exists along racial lines still in our society. So that's one of the places where that outreach and education is key, I think, to help a lot of small inner city businesses respond to this.
Well, speaking of racial divides and federal funding, earlier this year, there was a lot of frustration among some of the people of color who run businesses because what they found out was it was hard to take advantage of some of that federal assistance unless they had a prior relationship with a private lender. Could that be an issue here with this fund?
Well, not for us, hopefully. I mean, this opportunity to talk to you is part of the outreach effort we're doing as broadly and deeply as possible. We're working. We have a number of partners that are going to serve two roles with us to help with our outreach, both from a technical assistance standpoint to work with small business owners to develop strategic plans and projections going forward. But also to make sure we are broadly and deeply reaching all communities in the city of Boston. A number of, I mean, the Mayor's Office of Economic Development is one of the key outreach points that we're using. But also there's groups like the Local Enterprise Assistance Fund, the Center for Women in Enterprise. Historically, we have had a strong representation as lenders to the minority women-owned businesses. I mean, I believe it's about 65% of our current portfolio are to women, minority, and immigrant-owned businesses. The decision makers for our program are actually a board of trustees that volunteer their time. And that board, 75% of that board are women, minority, and immigrant membership. So hopefully they're able to inform our decisions to have the proper breadth and depth of that outreach and loan success.
Well, the goal of this program, in a way, is to help businesses that are hurting financially because of the pandemic, but they also have to show that they were doing okay before. So can you explain that eligibility a little bit?
Yes. What we see, I mean, each business stands on its own as a credit decision. And hopefully flexibility has been one of the hallmarks of this program. I've been managing it for 25 years now, and I think one of the places where we plug in when a deal can't be completely done by a bank or done by a bank is to have some flexibility to find the value in a project. But specifically, I think we see businesses that were, as you said, successful. So if we look at a tax return, we look at financial statements, we can say, okay, you know, here was everything going along, and then bang, COVID hit. Then there needs to be a plan for sustainability until we come out the other end of these issues. And then there'll need to be a game plan showing a return to ultimate profitability and growth. I think that's the profile of the business we're looking for. Now, a lot of the small businesses out there, they know how to run their business, but trying to articulate something like that on paper isn't that easy. And you certainly don't want people out of pocket to pay financial consultants or accountants to prepare things like projections going forward. So that again comes back to those technical assistance relationships where there's nonprofits that at no charge will be providing that assistance, and we'll have both pre-loan and post-loan relationships with them. The post-loan is important as the pre-loan. The pre-loan to help articulate the situation for the business owner, and then post-loan to help keep them on a positive path and help them deal with specific situations. So I think all of that is key. But it is, I mean, you know, as I said, each credit stands on its own. But I think we are looking specifically to help handhold the businesses through the tough times, but also make sure that they have a glide path back to success.
Well, in a way, these are loans with a bit of a safety net because you've got businesses that are committing to upfront expenses. It might take them a while to recover that investment. Is there any protection for those businesses in case things don't work out as quickly as they had hoped?
Well, structurally, I believe we're finalizing a few things because the announcement of this grant after the fact, we had to do some of the design work and specifics. because we needed to know the specific terms and conditions from the federal government. But I believe that we're going to have a 6-month period where there'd be no payments due. And then we'd go into a 12-month interest-only period, then followed by a principal and interest amortization schedule. So hopefully, if you assume it takes a little while for loans to get processed and booked, and when a first payment is due, hopefully by the end of that 6-month accrual period, we'll see some daylight. Earlier I mentioned flexibility as a hallmark of the program, so I think our board, and this, I've been around a while, this isn't my first recession, so I've seen, my board's response in the past will be to be flexible, to work with small business owners, to work, if there was a required sort of some additional special consideration to be able to get through another few months. Certainly, that's been the history of our program, is working to provide that support.
Bill, finally, we should mention that if there are some businesses out there that are interested, they have some questions, and then maybe would like to take advantage of the program, what's the next best thing they should be doing?
Get in touch with us. Our website is bostonbusinessloans.org. To check out the website, and there's a contact form on there. Or if folks would like to get in touch with me directly, my email address is bill.nickerson@boston.gov. That's bill.nickerson@boston.gov.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you so much.
That was Bill Nickerson from the Boston Local Development Corporation. We'll have more news in just a moment.